America is an amazing country filled with wonderful people who do incredible things. But too often, the media and liberal politicians ignore big parts of our nation and the people who make it work. So I'm speaking with leaders and policymakers who deal with real problems every day. I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is Real America. Today, I'm going to be speaking with combat veteran and Texas Congressional candidate Wesley Hunt. We're going to cover everything. He's going to give us tips on what it takes to run for Congress. We're going to talk about the southern border and also Biden's disastrous energy policy. So I'm so excited to have my friend Wesley Hunt here on the podcast, Real America. But there's something really exciting happening today, Wesley, that you probably don't even know. Okay. But this is the very first time that we are in this new studio for Real America. You're the first guest.
Thank you so much for
having me. The very first. I saved it all for you.
I love being first.
We've been building this studio for months just for you.
Just for me.
We're going to put a plaque.
Wesley Hunt.
Wesley Hunt, first guest.
Put a star right where Houston is, and so just Wesley Hunt.
Yeah, we'll have it right there. Always there on Houston. But I'm so excited to have you here. I'm such a fan of yours, and I'm even more excited to talk about your congressional run and how you're going to win in the Texas 38 Special District. We love that district.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We met, like 3 years ago?
3 years ago in Houston, Texas.
And you're just like amazing.
Thank you.
And you're really good friends with a good friend of mine who served with you, John James.
John James is my West Point classmate, my flight school classmate. We both flew Apaches. And his unit replaced mine in Iraq in 2006.
No way. And you've stayed in touch all since then.
Oh, yeah.
And he's running for Congress in Michigan, too. So yes. I'm excited that you're both going to be elected. So I want to just get a little backstory and introduce people to you. So you're from Texas.
Born and raised.
You're running in a new district. I call it the 38 Special. Yeah. It's a very special district.
That's an awesome name. I haven't thought about that, but thank you for the suggestion. We're going to have T-shirts and everything. It's going to be great.
38 Special, Wesley Hunt. But let's go back. You grew up in Houston, and then you went to West Point. So tell me a little bit of your backstory.
Well, great. Well, thank you for having me. And my backstory is really rooted on service. So my dad's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army. My sister, who's 10 years older than me, went to West Point, my family first.
Really?
And then she did 23 years active duty. She's a retired lieutenant colonel, and she's a military intelligence officer for that entire time.
Wow.
And then she went on to get her master's degree in applied mathematics, and she was a West Point instructor as a major, while both my brother and I were both cadets at West Point.
No, so your sister, did she teach you? Was she your instructor?
They wouldn't let that happen because it would have been an easy A.
Would she have been an easy A, or would she have been tougher on you?
No, easy. No. My sister.
I love your sister already.
She would love you. She would.
And your brother's name is it
Rendon Hunt.
Rendon Hunt.
Yep.
Okay, so you are a military family.
Military family. All three of us went into all went to West Point. All went into the military. My sister and I went into the Army, and then my brother, he went into the Navy.
Okay.
We don't hold that against him, of course. We always have one family member that just makes decisions that we don't understand. But
the Army-Navy game's got to be pretty competitive.
It's rough.
Really?
It's rough.
Who won this year? Who won that game?
Navy won this year.
Sorry.
So it's really bad. So my brother gets to have his cake and eat it too. Because when West Point wins and Army wins, well, he gets to claim West Point. Then when Navy wins, I was in the Navy. So he always wins.
That's pretty smart,
but it's about 60 years worth of military service just in my immediate family.
Well, thank you for your service.
It's an honor.
What an amazing family history you have. But you went to West Point and then you served.
Yes. So went to West Point and then did 8 years active duty in the Army.
Okay.
And so became an Apache helicopter pilot.
That's amazing.
And it's the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
It's exhilarating when you walk up to an aircraft with that much power and that much firepower, and to know that your job and doing your job is going to save lives on the ground. Wow. It's phenomenal. And also the pressure is high for us to do our jobs because we want to make sure that the ground units were able to get home and continue to serve and get back home to their families. And just by us as Apaches being on station, save lives every single day.
What was the most difficult environment that you had to land in?
So when I was stationed there in 2006, the mission profile was there were two Apache teams that flew over Baghdad and loitered all day, 24/7.
Okay.
And so we would respond to what would be a troops in contact, a call from a ground unit that got hit by an IED or hit by a sniper, and then we would come in and find the bad guys.
Oh, my goodness.
And so we were literally some days there was nothing, and some days we were very busy, just kind of depended on what the enemy wanted to do. But being able to reach out and touch the bad guys like that was an experience that set me up for life.
That's amazing. And so then did you come back to Texas after you served, or how did you end up in Houston
got
again?
done. I did 2 tours of duty in Saudi Arabia as a diplomatic liaison officer. And then I had one more combat deployment. I went to Cornell University.
That is a combat deployment. Yeah.
It's really liberal and it's really cold.
It is really liberal and really cold.
Great experience.
What did you do there?
So I earned 3 master's degrees in 4 years.
Okay.
So I did a master's in business, a master's in public administration, and a master of industrial and labor relations.
You're such an underachiever. It's it's tough.
Well,
Wesley.
my brother went to Harvard Business School.
Okay.
And so when he does that, you have to be like, well.
You're all one-upping each other.
Right?
It's like the family of one-uppers. Your sister started it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And then after that, moved home.
Then you moved
back to
home.
Texas. Yep.
And you love Texas. I was born in Texas.
I did not know
I was
that.
born in Texas.
Where?
In Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Just a few years ago.
Right there.
Not a long time
Literally,
ago. But I love Texas.
Yeah.
And not only did you serve our country, you do a lot of community service. You're involved with your high school. Is it St. John's High School?
Yes, went to high school in Houston.
And Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Yep. Talk about the importance of community service for you, because I think that's such an important thing that you do, giving back to your community.
My dad was always big on making sure that we find ways to serve not just our country, but also our communities, because it's incumbent upon us to continue to save our democracy and save our freedoms for the next generation. And you just can't do it if you don't give back.
It's so true.
And so it's kind of ingrained in our family. It's who my mom and dad are. My mom's the same way. They're just service-minded, good, strong Christian people. They've been married for over 50 years. And I think that's the secret sauce.
It is the secret sauce. And then what do you see when you give back to these communities? I mean, what does it mean for you when you're serving and in places that you grew up in with these kids?
To be an example and just to be there to have somebody to look up to is just something that's always an honor for me. So there's actually a kid from St. John's that's going to West Point.
Really?
And actually next week I'm going to give him his official certificate and congratulate him for going. And being able to do that, and my name gets announced as, former Captain Wesley Hunt is going to present this award to this student that's going to be a member of the Long Gray Line in the future. It's just an honor.
That's an honor.
It's such an honor.
But you made an impact in his life and his trajectory. What an incredible accomplishment.
Takes a village.
I think service is so critical. And I think of these kids right now coming out of the pandemic with rising crime rates that we're seeing across the country. Yeah. I mean, what do you say to Democrats right now with kind of the insanity of their policies that are hurting our kids, especially in urban communities like Chicago and other states?
You can't have 3.2 million people enter this country that we know of and have no border.
Yep.
You cannot rescind Title 42 without there being consequences.
Exactly.
And on top of that, you want to defund the police.
Exactly.
You can't do these things and expect there to be a positive result.
I like that you just connected those three.
Yes, they are. And you do all those simultaneously, and you're wondering why we're having a crime wave, not just in our urban areas, this entire country. But you're right. If Black lives really matter to Democrats, the hardest hit communities are Black and brown communities because we need police. And let me tell you something. Maybe we don't always get it right, but the overwhelming majority of police officers risk their lives every day for just Americans. So let's stop dividing us like this and understand that we need these people.
And now police are becoming targets.
Yes.
And you're exactly right. Black and brown communities are being affected because they're not getting the support they need from law enforcement because Democrats are defunding them. It's crazy. So let's talk about the border a little bit. I do want to go to Title 42 because this is on everyone's mind. Explain what Title 42 is to our listeners and what this means that the Biden administration is going to lift it.
Right. It was a medical exemption that basically did not allow people to come into this country because of COVID-19 and because of the pandemic that was implemented by President Trump, which was a very good thing. The other thing that got rescinded that President Trump did an excellent job with was the Remain in Mexico policy. So when you start reversing these policies, and we had the border under control for the entirety of his presidency.
Exactly.
And then you just automatically rescind these policies, not because they're bad policies, but because you just don't like the person. That's what I call poor leadership.
It's so true. They're not rescinding it because of anything having to do with the policy. We didn't like Donald Trump.
We put Kamala Harris in charge of the border. She's the border czar. As a military person, I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you are a Republican. When you're put in charge, be in charge. At least show up. Our border czar hasn't even shown up to the border.
She's never been, neither has Biden.
Neither has Biden.
So tell me and tell our listeners, what is it like in Texas right now? And what are Border Patrol agents and also the communities in Texas dealing with this influx of illegal immigrants coming across our border?
So we're being overrun.
Exactly.
And it's obvious. And if you look at what just happened last week, we lost an American soldier trying to save the lives of illegal immigrants. So see, when you have policies that work, you're not just protecting our country, you're protecting other people from trying to attempt to risk their lives to get into our country as well. That's the humanitarian piece of this. We're not doing just us a favor, we're doing them a favor too. And that's what laws mean.
Well, I love that you said humanitarian.
Yes.
Because Democrats try and cloud this or say this is a humanitarian thing to let people come across our country. Yeah. Well, not if they're being shepherded by coyotes who are abusing their children. 14,000 kids came unaccompanied last month. 14,000 kids unaccompanied.
Unbelievable.
When you see crime rates, when you see that this young man, Bishop Evans, 22 years old, died trying to save 2 drug smugglers crossing illegally.
Yes.
That is crazy to me. So what do you think Congress can do? What do you think when we win back the House and you get in Congress, what do you think we can do to hold the Biden administration accountable for this?
I just drove past the DOJ building. It's a fantastic building, and written on the side of it says, "Where law ends, tyranny begins."
It's true.
I just saw that. So what can we do? Implement the laws to prevent tyranny from entering our country. It's really that basic. And right now, the bar is really low. We just should not be raising taxes on American people. Let's just make sure that we have border security and follow the law and enforce the law at our border. Keystone XL pipeline, regaining our energy independence. Okay, let's make sure that we continue to support Israel. Let's make sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. These are all things that we as Republicans can all agree on. And if we have some kind of contract with America that says we're going to do these things, then guess what? We could then regain trust back in the American people.
I think you're so right. And it is common. I say this is an election of common sense versus crazy. I have some other words I put in front of that, but I'm just going to say common sense versus crazy. Because what they're doing is crazy. I mean, it is common sense that parents should have a say in their kids' classroom. It's a common sense that we should have a border, that we have laws. We shouldn't let drugs be pouring across our border. And we see the highest death rate right now between 18 and 45-year-olds is opioids.
Fentanyl overdoses, yes.
And so I'm so thankful for you. I do want to talk about energy because Texas is an energy producer. I'll tell you one thing John Kennedy said on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and I love it. He's like, all the oil and the resources are in Texas, Oklahoma and Louisiana, and the dipsticks are in Washington. Don't you love that?
That's a great line.
It's a pretty good line.
I'm stealing that.
It's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
I've used that line. I used it in Alaska last week. But I think that's so true. And your district is going to be such a huge resource for energy. Tell me why it is so important from so many levels, being a veteran, the inflation, all the things that we're seeing from a security level, that we have energy independence.
So Houston there's a saying that Houston is known as the energy capital of the world. And there's a stretch in Houston that's known as the energy corridor.
Okay.
The entire energy corridor has now been drawn into my district.
Okay.
So that makes me the energy congressman of the world.
You are the energy congressman. You are very high energy, I will say. That's the perfect name for you. You are the energy congressman in the 38 special.
In the 30 T-shirts. You can get a lot of T-shirts.
I love it.
Don't worry. And so basically, I am very fortunate to be in a district to where all 800,000 people that live in my district are in some way tangentially related to the oil and gas industry. If you're an engineer, if you're in the medical industry, if you are an attorney, everything circles around that industry. And making sure that we tell the truth about our industry is what's really important. We are the reason why we have reduced our carbon over the course of the past decade. Every single year is because of natural gas. We're sitting on the Permian Basin right now. We have the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania right now, and we are asking Venezuela and Iran for dirty oil. It makes absolutely no sense. So we need to take a more common sense approach to this and realize that we all want to get to that next abundant source of energy that's actually affordable for the world, but you ain't getting there without us.
Well, you can't just cut one off without a replacement, right?
No.
And what they've done is really shut down our energy.
Yes.
Biden did it day one.
Day one.
People
Keystone
don't
XL
understand
pipeline.
this.
Day
Keystone
one.
XL and then stopping the leases and drilling on federal lands.
On federal lands.
He did it day one.
Yep.
And then it stopped investment. Mm-hmm. And people in that industry said, we're not going to expand.
Of course.
And so instead we bought 500,000 of barrels of oil from Russia every day.
Yep.
So
do you hear this?
Is this crazy?
This is
what I'm saying.
This is
it's
insane.
Crazy versus common sense.
It's insane.
So how many jobs do you think in your like 80% of the jobs?
Just in the energy corridor alone, there's about 75 to 80,000 jobs just in the energy corridor. And then just north of mine, that's now in Dan Crenshaw's district, ExxonMobil's headquarters is there. And then also there's also a hub kind of in downtown Houston where there are also a few energy companies there like Chevron and Enterprise Products and a few of those. But what's interesting is that if you work downtown, you still live in my district.
You still live in your district.
So either if you're related to energy, either you live in my district or you work in the energy corridor. You really are
Yep. And what are you hearing? Are they just frustrated by what's happened under this administration? Because Biden's really declared war on energy. And I think American safety and security by what he's done to American oil and gas because he's embraced the Green New Deal.
We've embraced the Green New Deal and we're looking at what's happening in the world right now. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's happening in the Ukraine right now is a direct result of weak leadership and us relinquishing our energy independence. Full stop.
Full stop.
Would not be happening if we just stuck with good, positive America First policies. That's
exactly
all.
Right. Exactly
That's
right.
all. So
simple.
Right now, you can't demonize us today because literally this microphone that I'm speaking into right now, my cell phone in my pocket, everything that we use is basically a product of fossil fuels. If we were able to magically snap our fingers tomorrow and if every single American drove an EV tomorrow, we would only reduce our demand by 20%. We would still use 80% of a barrel of oil on everything else
Seriously?
that we need. Yes. And if you're driving a Tesla right now and you plug it in at night, it's being powered by a coal-powered grid or by natural gas.
That is so
your Tesla
crazy.
is gas-powered, by the way.
So we need it. Our grid's not ready for all.
The world's not ready.
I just think Texas is ground zero of everything that the Biden administration's done wrong. You're on the front lines of watching an overrun border, drugs coming across our border, and then an abandonment of the energy. And we're all feeling it.
Yes.
Like you said, don't raise taxes. Well, everybody has a tax hike right now with inflation.
Yes, we do.
So what are you hearing from people in your district? What are some of the main concerns you're hearing as you're running?
Biggest thing is, look, we're looking at what's happening with inflation and with higher taxes. We don't have a tax revenue problem in our country. We have a spending problem in our country.
Yes, we do.
Just 3 years ago, we had the highest tax revenue in the history of this country and added $1.5 trillion to our debt. Spending problem. Big government. Mm-hmm. How do we get the government out of the lives of everyday Americans and make it as small as possible to allow Americans to have the autonomy to make up their own minds and make their own decisions and operate in the best interest of their families and their own liberty and their own personal interest? It's just that simple.
You sound like a Republican.
Oh, it's shocking. It's like an American. It's common sense.
Common sense.
It's not that hard.
I think you're going to be elected. I think you're going to be such an influence in the House. I've been watching your career since I've been in Washington.
Thank you.
Is there something that you're really passionate about as a legislative priority when you come to Washington that just you want to get done once you get elected?
I want to get the Keystone XL pipeline done.
Yeah,
good. Let's get that turned back on. Let's stop the restrictions. Let's completely unleash the energy machine that is the United States of America and fuel the entire world. That's my top priority.
And we can do it in a clean way.
Yes, cleaner than anybody else.
That makes us not just more prosperous as a nation, but also safer. Because we're not putting money in the hands of Russia and Venezuela and Iran and bad actors. Common sense?
What is this?
Common sense? So I'm gonna go into candidate mode right now because you've been a candidate before. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people out there running for office right now. Not just Congress, but school board and county commissioner.
We're taking our country back.
Yeah, we're taking our country back. So you ran for Congress before.
Yes.
You ran such a great race. It was tight. It was a tough race. What are your pro tips for running for office to anybody who's listening? And what would you say? Think about these things as you're preparing for your run.
Stay in the community. Know your community. talk to every single person that you can. And make sure that you always leave a lasting impression about how you want to change things for the better. Always try to keep the most positive attitude as possible. And please know that there are people that are currently serving our country today and people that have died for our freedoms. Don't ever forget that. It's an honor to be able to serve. And it's an honor to put yourself out there, put your family out there and say, hey, you know what? There's going to be some really mean tweets and some really bad things said about you. But so what? Because there's going to be 800,000 people that are going to select you to represent them in the halls of Congress, and to be one of 435 Americans is an honor. Don't ever forget that.
That's amazing. Perfect. We should put that as like our training. Here's our training. I don't know if you ever are in a bad mood. Are you ever in a bad mood?
It's really hard to
Are
get
you
me.
always really just happy?
It's really hard to get me in a bad mood.
I'm going to say you're going to win the one-up war because, you know, your brother may have gone to Harvard and your sister may have taught at Westport, but you're going to be a congressman. Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
As of right now, but who knows what my brother and sister are going to do after this. So.
Like we're going up.
We'll see.
We'll
see.
How do people support you in your race? What would be a way to go and help Wesley Hunt?
WesleyForTexas.com, and that's my website, and that's where, you know, please, if you have any capacity to give, would greatly appreciate it. Obviously, this stuff costs money, and then also if you want to follow me, all my social media handles are there as well at WesleyForTexas.com.
You're so great. This is going to be a great freshman class. I do want to end with a question that I ask pretty much everybody on the show. Yeah. We have a lot of Republicans that are discouraged right now. Mm-hmm. They are upset about what happened in 2020. Mm-hmm. Some of them are saying—
understandably so.
Yeah, why should I get involved?
Reasonable.
Yeah, they're upset. They're upset with what happened. I'm not going to get involved. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to engage. I'm done. What do you say to that person who's sitting on the sidelines of this election? How do you get them off the sidelines to engage in what I think is going to be the most pivotal election in our nation's history?
So I'm running for United States Congress in Harris County. Harris County is the third largest county in the entire country. There are roughly 5 congressional districts entirely encompassed in Harris County. 4 of the 5 districts are minority-majority districts, and they are districts that Joe Biden would have won by at least 25 points.
Wow.
There's only one white majority district. 70% of my district is white, and it's a district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. And a black man is going to be the congressman in the only white majority Trump plus 25 seat left in the third largest county in the entire country. I tell you that. That's the America that I know and love. It's not about race. It's not about color. I literally get to wake up every day and live Martin Luther King's dream. I'm literally being judged by the content of my character and not by the color of my skin. That's our real party. Yeah. And if you want the world to know that, you have to get off the sidelines and help candidates like me that know the truth about our party and how do we spread the truth to save our country.
I love that because you're pushing back on this Democrat narrative that Black men cannot be Republican.
Everybody's racist.
Everybody's racist.
Everybody, no matter what.
I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to call you racist. You know that, right? Have they already done that?
Oh, I cannot wait for this.
It's going to be kind of hard for them to say that.
I cannot wait for this.
But I just want to end by just saying thank you so much for serving at every level in your community, with what you did with these teenagers and young kids, what you've done to serve our country in the military, and now this next step in your life. I know you have a wife and 2 young daughters. Yep. You said, what, an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old?
18-month-old and a 3-year-old. Yes, we're busy.
You're very busy. I said, I have a 17-year-old. I'll swap you. I'll swap you 2 for 1. All right? He's tough right
now.
Deal. No, he's great. He's great. He's great. But thank you for what you're doing. And I'm just so appreciative and excited about you. And I love the whole group of Congress people that you're running with. Go change this country. We need you. We need you.
It's looking good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining Real America. I'm thrilled to have you.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Wesley.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is what Republicans stand for. Join us next time on Real America.